In you go.
Mom, love you.
I'll see you in the morning.
You new in town?
If you're looking for a friend, you know where to find me.
We do things our own way. You have to have rules. If anything happened to me, there'd be no one to look after you. I love you.
You're mighty mysterious.
My boy's sick. Are you still with me?
Something's been off since you moved in town.
I have to protect you.
Can I come in?
Just hang on.
Sheriff, get down here now!
Seems bodies follow you wherever you go.
Mom, you think I'd ever hurt you?
Not on purpose.
Where to begin? I guess where I would like to is after watching this, I'm thinking a lot about the arc of your career thematically. And that's something that you and I talked about last time when we were talking about Delivered, is looking for that that connective thread in a way. And so those films, both Delivered and The Wind, dealt with the anticipation and the emotional anxieties of pregnancy. This one, we're evolving a little bit. Now it's motherhood. Mm-hmm. And so when you read the script, were you like, wow, again, this is coincidental, or Blumhouse, like you said last time, is seeing that this is another piece in the puzzle that of your career, I would I guess.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in between the two, where the through line of pregnancy and or motherhood, like being tied into the drama and anxiety of the character and the tension build throughout the piece, has been a little bit happenstance. But I also think that it's not completely a coincidence that those themes are woven into complicated female characters and journeys, because it's such a rich ground for creating tension and anxiety, as well as joy and real, strong human bond and connection. I think one of the things that I was really drawn to reading Blood Moon was that it's a thriller and a tense ride, but at the core of it is this real, like, mother-son love. And that's really like what this movie is about, is them trying to preserve that and them trying to protect each other. So that felt like, the real kind of like character backbone of certainly our lead female protagonist, as she's trying to save her son from everything that's out to get him, which is both external and internal threats.
Mm-hmm. I know that you mentioned last time Teresa was kind of like a source for you. Did she come into this at all?
She didn't work on this one, no, but I know she heard about it. We're continuing to work on other things together, so we're always in touch.
Gotcha. I didn't know, because you had mentioned last time that she was kind of helped you get some insight into like those parental anxieties, and I didn't know if like maybe she was another person that you had reached out to during the research process of this, because there's so many moments throughout that feel very genuine to me as a parent.
Yeah, I think we had some conversations about it for sure. I remember her saying like that she would just like basically murder someone for her kid. I mean, don't quote me on that one. She's not going to murder anyone. Not trying to throw Teresa under the bus here, but that parental instinct that basically all rules are out the window when it comes to your own kid. We definitely had that conversation around this. So yeah, we did chat about it, but I think with Delivered, she had just come out of what made her such a great fit to come in and help us shape that a little bit was the fact that she had just come out of being pregnant herself. And those anxieties were really fresh in her mind in terms of, being a first-time parent.
When in your career did you recognize that it's better to, when you're dealing with genre or you have these otherworldly sci-fi elements in play, that it's important not to let that take complete hold of the film, because that's what I recognize in your filmography is it's very character driven and emotionally driven. And especially here, because it's a very, again, quiet kind of movie. I mean, there's interactions here and there, but it's about being in that mental, like that headspace.
Yeah. I think both with this and The Wind for sure as well, isolation, it has been a theme in both of those stories. Again, a little bit of a coincidence, but I think certainly something that we can all relate to right now, having just lived through this past year of pretty intense isolation for most people. So I think when you take a story that's basically set in that context and throw in supernatural or throw in horror beats, there's just a real gentle balance there so that it doesn't feel like two different movies, right? Because the quiet that you just referenced, needs to still like give way to those bigger beats and the supernatural. And I think that was the challenge and goal for both, was like, how do we ramp this up and introduce the supernatural in a way that still keeps the story grounded? Because both of these scripts were very, grounded at their heart. And like the characters' journeys are very grounded. And then, really end on a different beat. So I hope that we've done that gradually enough that you feel like you're watching the same movie, and then it's just escalated in a really organic way. And hopefully by doing so, you've felt connected with the characters all the way through, and there's never been a beat where you've been taken out of it. And I think those are the movies for me anyway, that feel like the most gut wrenching at the end, because I just, feel so connected to the characters, because every beat has been really like believable.
Yeah. I think when I recognized it the most is during the transformation scenes where you don't see it, but you hear it, and it focuses on Sarah listening to it, trying to be at peace with it, almost kind of treating. I'm trying not to give anything away, but she like reads a story and she hums. She does all these like very, when you have a baby, like all these little things that you would do to kind of calm your child or pretend that your child is innocent. And so that's all of what came to mind. And I'm not sure like what came to mind for you in the visualization and the actualization of those scenes.
You're spot on. I think without giving away too much, we, Esme, or Sarah, as you referred to her, she's kind of going by two different names. As she's witnessing her son going through a transformation, which is happening largely off screen, we hold with her. We're really seeing her own struggle to try to support him, and in whatever way she can, but also to grapple with like this being her normal. Like this is not a normal situation that they are having to now deal with on a regular basis and create kind of a new normalcy in their lives. And I think she's really trying to put on that brave face for her kid, so that it doesn't create a scarier situation than what he's already in. And so that he, feels loved and not feared. And, I think that's like a universal experience for parents at different parts of their, lives with kids in different scenarios. Right. But that felt like kind of like a really great core character moment for Esme. And I love that we were able to stay with her in that. But I will also say on a production level, a lot of these choices also, I think, unless you are really able to dive into a full, huge CG moment that is so good that it also feels practical, which is, real budget consideration. I think sometimes these moments often work better off screen. And I love leaning into sound design because our imagination can really do the heavy lifting. And sometimes not seeing the creature is scarier than seeing the creature, right?
Yeah.
So we tried to sprinkle in little glimpses. And yet, like in those key moments, one of which you just mentioned, really stay with Esme, because this is ultimately, you know, about her journey trying to protect her son.
Yeah, yeah. You had mentioned that last time when we did a pretty big focus on the sound, because that's what stuck out to me in Delivered as well. And you had mentioned that you put a lot of thought into the sound design, but also the visualization, and you would maybe watch or edit things on mute to see if they still have that scary effect to it. Was that the same here when you're dealing with a lot of the tense moments?
Yeah. I would say that we played with an editorial, you know, we kind of did both, right? Like we play scenes dry, we'd play it with music. Like sometimes I'd watch it muted. Other times I'd just listen to the sound. So obviously it's a combination of all the things that ultimately, you know, builds the moment. But I think all the elements inform the beats differently. So it's really fun to solo those out sometimes and see if like each one is landing on its own. And they don't always. Sometimes it's just the combination. That's like the sweet spot to either create the scare or create the emotional beat. But, you know, I think for the quieter moments, of which there are a lot in this movie as well, the sound design becomes as critical as the louder moments. We added a lot of, and/or brought out a lot of production breaths. I think like really feeling close and with the characters in terms of sound was helpful in those quiet moments. But it is interesting that sometimes the scenes where there's like the least amount happening, quote unquote, are like require the most attention because the sound design is subtle, and yet it totally is the thing that plugs you into, you know, the inner headspace of the character.
Yeah, yeah. I really liked I don't know what I forgot the technical term. It's been a long time since film school, but the dolly zoom that you do with certain scenes with like on the moon and various other things that I don't want to give away, but that was a really cool touch that I thought fit really well with the film.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we were trying to really link that with like Luna's POV when he's, you know, getting close to transforming, and, you know, little Spike Lee inspiration in those moments for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to briefly talk about the score. Some of the guitar parts made me think of the movie Raw. And then there's some like really bending sounds that I don't know, maybe witch like or something like that. But it was a really interesting journey to go on, and I'm curious how you were able to find that sound with your composer.
Yeah, Jay Wadley composed this one. We'd worked together before, and actually used to share offices back in New York City when I used to live there, and it was always like a joy popping into his process, and he would like, you know, pop into my office and see what I was editing or whatever. And it was always really fun to see what different worlds he was building sonically. And we hadn't collaborated on anything that was like dark. We worked together on like a documentary, and, you know, we've just dabbled in other spaces tonally, but we hadn't done anything that was of a darker tone yet. And I know he was like really excited to do that. So we definitely like borrowed inspiration from, I don't think Raw actually came up, although that's a great comp, but, you know, we were trying to get into the weirder, more supernatural space in terms of the score. So not just bring out the darker themes of the film, but like really start to feel the eeriness of the world through the score. And and also feel connected to Luna. Like, I think the themes that we had for both Luna and Esme like really helped shape the film. And I think the score was a really major part in doing so. So we just started experimenting. I mean, he was just like making weird sounds with instruments that I had never, been familiar with before, and like sending them over. And I was like, this is amazing. And we, build a cue off of that. And it was just kind of a pretty organic back and forth process. But, we referenced annihilation at times in terms of like some of the design that hints at creature elements a little bit more heavily. We weren't specifically talking about The Witch, but we did like listen to some of like the Lighthouse score as inspiration, which like totally goes in a different direction than we do, but there were some like interesting elements from that score. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but it was just kind of like a pretty great collaboration of back and forthing and like throwing paint on the wall and seeing how it stuck.
Yeah. And I know we're about out of time, but I wanted to bring up, I watched the Woodlands folk horror documentary.
Oh yeah, that just was at South by, right?
Yeah, I just watched it, and I love what both you and Teresa had to say about that. It's just like that whole, I don't know if you were able to see the whole
I haven't seen it yet. No.
It's really good. And so I hope
to check it out.
Yeah, it was great. Well,
oh, cool. Great to hear.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I really could sit here all day. I just really admire the work that you do, and I connect with it. So I'm always looking out for an opportunity to speak with you whenever you do a project.
Oh, thanks, Preston. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, me too.